How could a young man, barely 20, conquer the greatest empire the ancient world had ever known? This is not a myth. It's the story of Alexander the Great, a man who pursued glory to the very end. Alexander was born in the Kingdom of Macedon in 356 BC, the son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias. From an early age, he was no ordinary child. He was educated by the philosopher Aristotle, learning philosophy, logic, the natural sciences, but most importantly, the arts of war. When Philip was assassinated, Alexander ascended the throne and quickly suppressed any attempt at rebellion. He then set out on his greatest dream, the conquest of the East. He led his campaign against the Persians in 334 BC, achieving resounding victories at the battles of the Granicus Issus and Gaugamela, removing the Persian emperor from the path. Alexander founded dozens of cities, the most important of which was Alexandria in Egypt. He adopted the principle of cultural integration, marrying Eastern princesses and imposing the same on his commanders. He spread Hellenistic culture, blending Greek with Eastern culture, resulting in a new era rich in science and art. Alexandria was not just a port, but a civilizational project. Alexander wanted it to be a capital of science, trade, and culture, where the civilizations of the East and West met. He ordered its layout based on the Greek model, with straight streets and organized neighborhoods, and the city quickly became one of the greatest centers of knowledge in history. Alexander reached India to the Indus River, where he confronted India's most powerful king, Porus. Despite the elephants and the overwhelming numbers, he won again. But here, fatigue set in, and his army refused to continue. Alexander returned, not defeated, but a walking legend. But the road to Babylon was not the end of the journey, but the end of life. After Darius's defeat at the Battle of Issus, he fled deep into Persia, but he was not completely defeated. At Gaugamela, Darius gathered all the rest of his strength, units from all the Persian provinces, war elephants, clawed chariots, cavalry. From the strongest tribes, the battlefield was open and wide, chosen by Darius specifically to allow his army to move freely, and also to use the chariots with blades that would tear through the enemy ranks. Although his forces were significantly smaller, he relied on military intelligence and tactics, speed, and flexible movement using the Macedonian phalanx, disintegrating the center of the Persian army with the element of surprise. Alexander saw the Persians' weak point, Darius himself, and decided to target him directly. The Persians began the attack with waves of cavalry and bladed chariots. Alexander ordered his soldiers to open their ranks to allow the chariots to pass, then attack them from both sides. After they passed, Darius sent cavalry from the left wing to surround Alexander. But the Macedonian left wing, led by Parmenion, held firm despite the tremendous pressure. Alexander leads a concentrated attack directly against Darius III. He breaks through the Persian defenses, approaching almost to the point of reaching him. Darius, for the second time, flees the battle, leaving his army to collapse. A crushing victory for Alexander. Persian resistance collapsed completely. Alexander then took control of Babylon, Susa, Persepolis, the magnificent Persian capital, which he later burned. It ended the 200-year Persian Empire. It made Alexander the ruler of the richest lands of the ancient world. It was considered one of the greatest military victories in history, despite the overwhelming numerical superiority of the enemy. But suddenly, Alexander fell ill. His body began to decay, and a fever persisted. After days of pain, he died at the age of just 32. He died in the prime of his life, with the entire world at his feet. Some said it was malaria or poisoning, but the truth? No one knows to this day. After his death, the empire fell and was torn apart among its leaders. But Alexander's name lived on. Alexander died before he reached the age of 32. He was not defeated by an army nor by a kingdom, but rather defeated by time and betrayed by a few years. He left behind a boundless empire, but it collapsed because no one possessed the dream that dwelt in his eyes. He was not just a leader, but an idea. The idea that a person, no matter how small, is capable of changing the face of the world. Alexander died, but his name did not. He remains immortal, told in every civilization, depicted on every mural, and his story whispered through every age. Thus ended the life of a man with whom a legend began.